Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, Infinite Wish. I am Infinite Wish. So today I'm going to be starting the Mars in the first house synastry. So let's just get right into it. And again, just use what resonates with you. I'm just kind of playing on the energy. So if you feel like you kind of relate more to the house or planet person, just take it as that is. So when Mars falls into somebody's first house, so the energy in the beginning, Mars can be super aggressive because, again, so if Mars is falling into somebody's first house, that means the first house, that means it's falling into someone's ascendant, that's someone's rising sign. So this is basically their physical ideal type. When house person and Mars see each other, they embody that. And Mars can come off super aggressive because it is Mars. So before we get into all that, I like to do an intro. So let's talk about what Mars represents and what the first house represents. So the first house, so this is associated with your physical body and your outward appearance. So that means the rising sign sits here. So it's about an individual's physique, facial features, and general demeanor. And because it's in the first house, so basically the physical traits, it shapes your personality and how you interact with your environment. So that is what the first house represents. So Mars naturally sits in the first house of the zodiac. So Aries is the natural ruler of the first house. So let's take a look at what Mars represents. So Mars represents aggression, masculinity, the warrior. So if you guys know, Mars is like the god of war. It's your energy, your courage, ambition. Mars also governs sports, competition, and physical activities. So that is what Mars represents, okay? So when Mars naturally sits in the first house, it's associated with willpower, what you go after as an individual. So very different from Venus, obviously. So, taking risks, challenges, and stepping out of your comfort zone to, basically in pursuit of any success that you want to achieve. So, what happens in synastry when you have somebody's Mars, their vitality, their energy, sexual energy? What happens when that falls into your first house? So, let's get right into it, okay? There is immediate attraction, and I know that a lot of astrologers, people always say, attraction can be seen in different signs, but there's different levels of attraction. So, because Mars has to do with sex and everything like that, so, I guess you can put those two together. So there is an attraction felt on both the house person and Mars person. And it's almost like when you see somebody, with this type of energy, you almost want to take a double look. Like, you want to know who that person is. You're like, damn, who is that? So that could be, really picked up very quickly between the house person and Mars person. So in this connection, in this synastry, Mars is the pursuer. It would be best if Mars is the masculine rather than the feminine in this connection. But you could take it either or. There's nothing wrong with the feminine being the Mars in the synastry aspect. So in this connection, Mars is definitely the pursuer, very aggressively, because it falls into somebody's rising sign. So again, they embody everything physical that the Mars is very intrigued by. So with that being said, this can be really overwhelming for the house person at first, because Mars is most definitely throwing their energy at the house person in a very aggressive way, like almost like claiming them without even really getting to know them, you know, in a very, very sexual way. And I almost want to say that Mars doesn't really come off as respectful in this connection at first. You know, when you are approaching somebody, you know, you do want to have a level of respect. You know, you don't know this person. And when Mars is entering somebody's first house, Mars can, like, they almost want to go all in, like they know the person, you know, and the house person can kind of find this disrespectful. And the house person can find them very annoying. Like, it's almost like the Mars person, you know, won't give up. You know, like, for example, let me give you guys an example. So you meet somebody, you know, either from far or you had one conversation with them, but for some reason that person thinks you owe them, you know, you. And, you know, as the house person, you're just like, I only spoke to you once, or I didn't even speak to you at all, but then you're trying to claim me for some weird reason. And, you know, the house person can find this really, really annoying. And it's most definitely up to the house person to redirect this energy because with Mars being here, it's immediately going to go to a sexual place. So what do I mean by this? So the conversations can be basically, what are you interested in the bedroom? Can you send me some pictures? What do you do? Do you do any physical activities? So it's very Martian the way the Mars person is coming off, more so than the ascendant person, because you know that's somebody's rising sign. So your Mars is their rising and their rising is your Mars sign. So it can be really, really, really intense. I'm not trying to say like the house person isn't into it or anything like that, but it's almost like what the heck is going on? And the thing about this connection is Mars definitely needs to dial it back 120, 140% even, because that energy from Mars is so felt. And, you know, yeah, Mars just has to dial it back a little bit because it's like, okay, I can see that you are most definitely approaching me for one thing. If we do ever meet, it looks like you just want to get it on and pop in. And, you know, it can be really annoying. So it's up to the house person to kind of redirect this energy to a different place, especially if the house person doesn't feel comfortable. And if, you know, the house person feels the Mars person is being very disrespectful to them and their physical body, the way they look, because it can be almost like, what's the word I'm looking for? It can almost come off as a superficial attraction. So the house person may want the Mars person just to play it cool. Like, you know, even though the house person may be interested in the Mars person that way, it's just like, you need to be on that low shit. You need to calm down. You need to dial it back because this is way too much. And I want to say that the Mars can be, I'm so sorry to keep saying Mars is super annoying, but the Mars person constantly wants to be in the house person's energy. And what do I mean by this? That can be texting them constantly, calling them constantly, wanting to know what they're up to constantly, you know, and in the beginning, you can kind of see the Mars's energy, the way it's playing out. So this is how the interaction can be in the beginning. So let's get into part 2, and I kind of talk about how the synastry kind of plays out with Mars and the house person.